Screw your freedom.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Oh, you can handle the truth. Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. It's the day after Sunday Night Live. It is Monday Madness. And the only way to be live on Monday is to be on the preparedmind.club or subscribestar.com and be a premium member. It's whole $2. I'm not a crook, says Nixon, who resigned for a couple of dunderheads breaking into a Democrat office. Look at what's going on with Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, the Democrat Party, the Department of Justice in the District of Columbia, the Attorney General in the District of Columbia, the FBI in the District of Columbia. Seems like DC has just a shit pile of shit. I guess that's why they call it the swamp, right? All right, well, I got a top story for you. We're going to kick this off. Get your questions down below. I'll do my monologue, and you, if you are here on the Prepared Mind channel, are about to get blasted with facts. And you get to come up with your own opinion. The big question is, what is Mad Max as far as it relates to SHTF and the world we live in? Well, it is an increase in SHTF violence where all of a sudden your world can go from, well, things are kind of jacked up to, whoa, things just got real and people are dying. So I've got a story for you I want to share, and I want you to think about it. What happened in this story? I'm going to give you some facts. You can do your own conjecture, your own theorizing. I'll just ask some questions, right? Allow me to ask some questions, if you will. So let me give you some facts of the case. There was a shirtless man who decided to, well, pump some gas and dance at the same time. And he was in New York, but something very bad happened. So let me give you more details to think about. So this black man, who happened to be gay, was dancing and goofing off and being silly and bright pink, silky looking shorts, topless. He was topless, man, no shirt on. And some other people who were observing this didn't really appreciate it. So these other people that didn't like it, who found it offensive, were Muslims. And the Muslim told them, hey, we're Muslims and we don't like that. Well, another man, I guess he was the friend of Mr. Pink Shorts. He was also in what was described as underwear, was also taunting the young Muslims with his, the descriptive term was exuberant dancing. So what type of grinding, pumping, thrusting stupidity do you think this exuberant dancer was putting on for the aggravated, pissed off, frustrated, disgusted Muslims? Well, the dancing was bad enough. The activity was bad enough. The exchange was bad enough that the Muslim, who was 17 years old, stabbed Pink Shorts to death. That's right, killed the man. Now, I have questions to ask, and I'm not drawing any conclusions. I'm not passing judgment. I want to ask questions. Because, folks, in SHTF, we could be minding our own business. You could go to the store. You could go to a gas station. Maybe you won't be wearing bright pink shorts, topless, dancing like a fruitcake, wishing there was a pole to jump on. But you could do something that could trigger one of these left-wing people into a fit, a spasm of stupidity. So I want to ask these homosexual people who were dressed in very, shall we say, provocative clothes and doing exuberant dancing. You know, one of them was murdered, killed. Who was wrong here? Ask yourself, who was wrong in this exchange? Ask yourself, who is criminal? Who is criminal? Well, you might say, well, the Muslims were wrong. They're wrong. You don't just kill somebody because someone is offended by it. Well, isn't that what we're told the left is allowed to do? If they're offended or they think someone is threatening them, a microaggression requires them to violently respond. Weren't people murdered during the BLM riots because the rioters, BLM and Antifa, they felt offended and threatened, so they felt justified in killing people? Well, the Muslims were justifiably offended, threatened, injured, and triggered by the behavior of these others. Now, let's ask about America. Shouldn't we say, this is the United States of America, and you should respect it? Does running around in your underwear, your pink silky boxers, and dancing provocatively and exuberantly, is that American, or is that some kind of subculture that's perverted? I'm not justifying anything or saying anything bad should happen. I'm saying that's not really American. Neither is the Muslim. So who is wrong here? Who is the criminal, right? Isn't being offensive justification for violence? Once again, folks, I'm asking these in a rhetorical fashion because I want us to understand and contemplate, what does it take to cause some ding-dong out there to lose his shit, come unglued, and commit acts of violence, right? Don't leftists, Democrats, and transgender types, don't they call for violence against those who offend them and disagree with their belief systems? Don't leftists, Democrats, and transgender types and the LGBT crowd, don't they call for vengeance? Their own brand of making the world a better place through violent action? That's right, they love violence and violent action as long as it suits their agenda. So again, was any of this wrong? Were they both wrong? Were they both right? Or were both sides living their own truths and now one has ended up dead for it? So again, right, how do we look at this? Is that death in this case justified? What if the Muslim harassed the gays? Would the death of the Muslims by the gays be justified if the gays felt threatened by Muslim behavior? Right, that's what we have on the streets with white, cisgendered men and women and the elderly who offend the leftists by our mere existence, by walking down the street not wearing a flag, not carrying and wearing a BLM, Black Lives Matter shirt. Now, clearly in this case, the Muslim felt his beliefs and his heavenly afterlife was being threatened by the gays' aggressive gayness. Well, he must have saw this behavior as aggressive, especially, folks, if the exuberant dancing included, right, swinging one's genitalia in the direction of someone who's Muslim. The lesson I see in all this, and this is just my opinion, the lesson I see is avoid all idiots. Understand it is SHTF out there, and it can get real. It can get Mad Max on your ass real fast. So be prepared and be aware of surroundings. I'm aware of my surroundings. And of course, I've told myself time and again, don't dance in pink shorts. And don't screw with knife-wielding lunatics. Good golly. Where's the brilliance in any of that? Any of it? Wow. Incredible. Okay, now I want to lead to more of the radical stupidity, not in America this time, but around the world. This is anti-white racism, part 1, Africa style. Now, a radical South African political leader calls for the death of white people. And he had a massive crowd dancing and repeating his screams for the murder of others. Now, here's what he was telling them. Kill the Boer, the farmer, AKA kill Whitey, kill the white man. the world, folks, not just America, not just New York, not just the ghetto, not just Rainbow Town, USA, but all over the planet, we have very radical people calling for the deaths of others, justifying acts of violence, becoming uncivilized, right? Uncivilized. Is that right? In Africa? Well, people in Africa, folks, were they slaves? No, they're just Africans. And people that have lived there for hundreds of years who are of European descent, were they slaves? No. So what's going on here? Apparently, we have a little bit of socialism at play. Once again, socialism calls for the execution of one's political opponents, one's economic foes. It's a crazy world, folks. So South Africa, this is anti-white racism part 2. In 4 days, there have been 5 attacks against white people on farms, just in South Africa alone. 1 person was killed and a woman was tortured. How would you feel? You see, right now, the way I see it, South Africa is in Mad Max Light, somewhere in between, because people are being assaulted, because one group feels offended. Another group, this group feels like they're justified in taking action. There are some big SHTF lessons for you and I here on this Monday Madness times 10, right? It's out of control. Imagine everything is fine one day, and then the next day for you step out your door, you get in your car, you go to work, you finish work, you drive to the store, and all of a sudden you're attacked. Does it matter why you're attacked? Like, it doesn't matter if it's a hate crime or it's just regular crime. Either way, you're attacked. You have your money taken, your wallet taken, you are beaten severely, and your car is taken. Does it matter what color the assailants are? No, it doesn't actually. Does it matter their age, their race, their nationality? Does it matter what their religious beliefs are? Not really. What matters is you now have had the shit kicked out of you, your money stolen, and your car stolen. And you're lucky you're not dead. You're just in a lot of pain and you're bleeding. Folks, that is SHTF. It's going on in Africa right now. In parts of America, it's going on. Right? And it really doesn't matter, folks, what color, what religion people are. If they're bad, they're going to fuck you up. Now, are there some clues as to whether or not a group, however large or small, is there a clue that you're in trouble? The answer is yeah. Learning people's body language, understanding, what belongs and what doesn't. Now, some places, say in poor neighborhoods, everyone looks poor. Everyone's car is shitty. But if you're in a poor neighborhood and there's a nice car, right, you got to wonder why. Why is that car nice and the rest aren't? And if you're in a nice neighborhood and you see all nice cars and then you see some really crappy, shitty ones, makes you want to go, what is that car doing here? Are they just visiting? Is that gang, right, sitting over there on the curb? 4 big ruffian dudes? Are they here because of the buy one, get one offers at the supermarket? Or are they potential troublemakers, regardless of apparent religion, dress, clothes, style, skin color, age, etc.? It's the behavior, folks. We all are grown up. We all know what scumbags look like. It doesn't matter. You know when someone's going to give you trouble. How can you protect yourself? Literally, folks, by paying attention and protecting yourself. Right? What if you don't have self-defense tools? What if? It's a big deal. if you don't. Right? I don't know where this pink short wearing dude would have kept his pistola if he had a concealed weapon, since he wasn't wearing much anyways. A pair of silky pink boxers. Kind of a mistake, right? He brought his attitude to a knife fight. Very, very interesting. Folks, it's getting worse. Depending on where you're at, there are different reasons for someone to come after you. Now, I am Mr. Good News after all. And I got some good news stories for you. The House Republicans are going to reveal to the world, Biden family bank records coming out of Russia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan. That's right. That was supposed to happen today during the Devon Archer hearing. Who is Devon Archer? Who is Devon Archer, you ask? Why is Devon Archer testifying in Washington, D.C.? Well, it's because he's going to testify against the Bidens. And the Biden administration and his Department of Justice tried doing what? They tried to have Devon Archer arrested, thrown in jail, incarcerated, because he was supposed to go testify. They sent him a letter saying he needs to turn himself in. Right? Well, guess what? The Department of Justice, they changed their decision to arrest him because the Republicans in the House started talking about it, started acting up, right? And so the Department of Justice said, hey, man, we're not obstructing justice from the House. We're not trying to intimidate witnesses. What do you think, folks? I think the Department of Justice is full of total bullshit and that they're using Gestapo tactics. And this is happening more and more and more often. Devon Archer has something to say, folks. He has something to say. It's been crazy, folks. Right? Yep. Key witness. They tried to chuck him, right? They tried to chuck him in jail. Can you believe that? I mean, the Democrats, folks, think you're that stupid. They do. I want to give you an example. And by the way, once again, get your questions down below. Get them down below so we can get them back up on the screen in the second half of the show. We had an awesome Sunday Night Live last night. I'd like to continue with the questions, the thoughts, the ideas that you guys have, that you want to cover. Now, how dumb do the Democrats think you are? Well, a Democrat in the House of Representatives, his name is Dan Goldman. He says Hunter Biden frequently put his dad on speakerphone with foreign associates, but only to talk about the weather. Did you know that, folks? Do you believe that sack of shit? That's how dumb they think you are. That Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States, would come to the phone while his son Hunter is on a business call with foreign corporations and foreign agents because Joe Biden wanted to talk about the weather. Do you think someone in another country wanted to hear a prognostication about clouds from Joe Biden? Is Joe Biden a weather expert? Does he have a degree in meteorology? Is Joe Biden considered a climate expert? Is he a scientist? What degree did he get from what college? What entertainment venue does Joe Biden come from that people are just thrilled? Joe Biden, you could talk about the weather. You could talk about being a sportsman. You could talk about your Corvette. You're just entertaining as all get up. Give us more Joe Biden. Nobody, folks. Nobody. But that's what they presented to you and me and the world, is that, Joe Biden, he just wanted to talk about the weather. I might believe some of that if Joe Biden, that's all he talked about was the weather. At a press conference, someone stands up and says, President Biden, Oh, tell us more about the election, why you really believe that you got all 91 million of those votes honestly. And Joe Biden taps the microphone. He goes, that's a great question. I would like to talk to you about cirrus clouds. They're some of my favorite clouds in the sky. And, just start talking about the weather. Hey, Joe Biden, says another news person, how long are we going to stay in Ukraine and try and fight the Russians? And Joe Biden taps the microphone. Is this thing on? Hurricanes are really powerful weather systems, and they've caused ships to sink for hundreds of years. Did you know that what we call a hurricane in the Atlantic Ocean is a cyclone in other places? Yeah, it's really incredible. Right? If Joe Biden always talked about the weather, I could believe it, but he doesn't. It's a crock of shit. It really is. It's an absolute crock of shit. But Dan Goldman is an apologist, a mouthpiece. He is a liar, just like Shifty Adam Schiff. He really is. Now, speaking of liars, I want to take you around the world to another part of the planet where Russia, the country in a special military operation, an SMO, is fighting against the Ukraine government to hold territory that has left Ukraine and annexed itself to Russia. Russia is claiming that they have killed 20,800 Ukrainians in the second month of this spring offensive, the Ukraine counteroffensive. And they're claiming that they killed 1,435 this weekend all by themselves. So in 8 weeks, folks, they've lost 20,000. In 1 weekend, they've lost basically 1,500. That's a lot of bodies to count. Is Russia lying? Don't you think it's important for someone in the United States to have some credibility to speak up against these Russian lies? That's just it. I can't believe the Russians, and I can't believe the Americans. I can't believe NATO. And when I say Americans, I mean the Washington, D.C. bureaucrats. Why should I believe them? What truth have they told me? What honor have they upheld? What oath have they observed? None. What laws have they passed? How have they made America a better place? Not at all. Not by leaving the border open. Not by trying to punish people for protecting their kids. Not by calling parents domestic terrorists. There's nothing this government in Washington, D.C. that has done brings it any honor or any respect. So yeah, if we can't respect this country living here, when I say can't respect this country, I mean the U.S. government of Washington, D.C. Unbelievable, folks. Now, Russia, folks, a Russian congressman, let's call him a congressman, a parliamentarian from Russia, says that as we get closer to our election in 2024, the threat of nuclear conflict, nuclear war grows and grows and grows. What is this guy talking about? Why is our election a greater risk of nuclear war with Russia? This guy says, hey, look, in America, political party opposition is so great now that one side will do anything they can to keep power, and they'll use any excuse they can to wield that power and to keep that power. Well, the opposition party and party candidate would be Donald Trump in 2024. He has no power to launch nuclear weapons. He doesn't have office, so he can't fight to stay in it. So who is the Russian politician talking about? He's talking about Joe Biden. That's precisely who he's talking about. Joe Biden. Does he have a point? Could he be correct? I think he could be. Joe Biden is in big trouble. Now, will the Democrats, the corporate masters, the bankers, the international cartels, will they allow Joe Biden to risk total nuclear annihilation in order to keep himself in office? Will they allow this man whose family is exposing itself as a bunch of grifters, charlatans, thieves, and basic mafia scum? Are they going to allow them to bring this country down to that level? We're going to find out. We're going to find out big time. Russia killing Ukrainians to this. Let's just assume the Russians doubled times 2 the number of people they say they killed. I'm sorry, it was half that. They doubled it to get to 20,000. So 10,000 people killed? Is that acceptable? That Russia killed 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers, 10,000 human beings, 10,000 men in a country about the size, what, of North Carolina or Kansas? That's a lot of people to die in 2 months. What if it was 5,000? 5,000 a month? Or 5,000 in 2 months? 5,000 in 2 months. 5 times 6 is 30,000 a year at that rate. How many years? Let's just say it goes on for 5 years. 30 times 5 is 150,000. That would be double what America lost in Vietnam in what is basically a 10-year war. In 5 years, they'll have double the number of deaths in a war that's half as long. Basically 4 times the amount being killed in Ukraine. And that's if we reduce Russia's claim, reduce it 75%. It's an unbelievable amount of people being killed. And there's no one in the Pentagon coming out and calling the Russians liars. While the Russians also, get this, claim that all they want is peace. All they need is for Ukraine to say, we want peace. And one last thing, let's have several last things. Devin Archer, once again, the guy who's accusing the corrupt Bidens, who are supporting the Ukraine war, who are supporting the open border, who are supporting the feminization of the U.S. military, the Biden administration, who is supporting and pushing gay pride and transgenderism and genital mutilation of children and gay pornography in schools and drag queen story hour for kids to groom them as sex toys for these perverts. Devin Archer asked Hunter Biden, quote, why did your dad's administration appointees arrest me and put me in jail? That's an interesting question to ask, don't you think? There's a lot going on, folks. A lot going on. And by the way, Pee Wee Herman died at age 70 today. Pee Wee Herman is now dead, apparently of cancer. Cancer. Makes me wonder, was his cancer accelerated by the Jim Jones juice? There are a lot of claims by research scientists. And Mr. Skylight has been sharing a lot of that information with me, well, not just this week, but for months and now years. Literally years of evidence coming out saying the Jim Jones juice causes immune-related problems. We have troubles, folks. We have troubles. We have big troubles. We have little teeny troubles on everyone's plate. Where are you going to shop? Where are you going to get your gas? Right? We have Russia saying, hey, we don't like what's going on. right? We're killing all these Ukrainians. We don't like what's going on. You want to try and once again use a drone bomb to take out Moscow? Well, there's problems, folks. Now, Maria Zakharova of Russia said that the Kiev regime, that would be the Voldemort Zelensky government, they asked for negotiations in April of 2022, and then they wouldn't participate. They had several rounds of negotiations taking place, then they just stopped responding. The Kiev Voldemort team just stopped responding to documents that were sent at their request. Interesting, folks. The notion of peace, the idea that peace is here, would stop NATO and Washington, D.C. from sending weapons. Peace can't be allowed, folks. Peace can't be allowed to be introduced to the process of destruction with these people. And I think that's really what they are all about, destruction. Well, that said, I think it's time we move on to your comments, your questions, your thoughts, your predictions, etc. Let's do it, folks. Let's go to the inner circle. And we're back. Here we are. It is go time with you. I want to thank everyone who's showing up live, participating in the question section. A lot of people just sit back and read, right? A lot of people want to participate. If you're here live on a day-to-day basis, you can ask questions and get answers live. Let's do it. Ooman, who do we want to put up? Jolene, who do we want to talk to? And it's Jolene says, you got a message from Village Idiot. He says, how do you make holy water? Just boil the hell out of it. Oh, you got to love idioms. That's very interesting, very funny, and you got to love some humor. Gotta have a laugh. And I guess that would be one way to make holy water, is to boil the hell right out of it. Very good, man. Thanks for the laugh. Wow. Who's next? I don't know. Who wants to follow that? Oh, none other than Orlando. Orlando has let me know that he's got something interesting to share. And he says, according to the 2020 Deagle site, the Deagle site, folks, has to do with population control, population reduction, population risks, etc. So according to the 2020 Deagle site, by 2025, we are expected to have a population of 100 million people in the U.S. 2021 current is absent. Current population is 325 million, give or take. Thoughts? I've been catching glimpses, Orlando, of the Deagle report for probably 10 years, maybe less, but I've been just kind of following it. Is it true? Well, we have people like the Gates Foundation. We have people like Zark Zuckerberg. We have people like Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. We have other rich and wealthy people who are part of groups. Now, are they all part of the same groups? No. Some of them are more into eugenics than others. Bill Gates is definitely one of the strongest proponents of eugenics, or that is the reduction of population, killing of human beings. Now, it really is fascinating, Orlando, that was it just last year, the Georgia Guidestones, which talked about population reduction, reducing the population of the planet from whatever it's at down to 500 million for the whole planet. The whole planet. That would be like reducing the population of the planet to the United States of America times 2. And spread that all over Canada, Central America, South America, all of Africa, all of Europe, all of Asia, all of Australia. And we'll put 1 or 2 people down in Antarctica. Yeah. I think that they could make this happen very quick, don't you think? A nuclear war to kill 2/3 of the population in the United States. Well, how are they going to do it? Right, nuclear explosions, that would be a very fast way to get there by 2025. How about, well, some really hyperactive Jim Jones juice? That would kill about 150 million people, because about half the country has taken that trash, the Jim Jones juice, and that would be 150 million people. Let's see, how else could we have our population killed? War, an invasion by an invading army that murdered and slaughtered everyone as they just raced across the country. It would take a lot of killing, folks. There would be people in hiding. There would be people fighting back. And America is not like any other nation that's just going to bend over and accept a foreign military force coming through. Now, much like the Afghans and the Iraqis and other nations that have a superior military force enter their territory and just start killing people. Yeah, it's very interesting, don't you think? I don't think Americans would take it very well, and I don't think that any other country would be really that successful, because it takes food, fuel, energy, weapons to continue that type of onslaught against a country. I mean, look at how many trillions did we spend trying to secure freedom for Afghanistan? And what did we get for it? 2 decades of fighting. And Joe Biden gave it back to them. Plus an $85 billion gift in weapons and equipment related to military activity. So I have a hard time, Orlando. How about a zombie outbreak? I mean, tell me, Orlando, what do you think could bring this Deagle number into fruition? You know, what gets me is the fear that would be associated with such an action. Like if a few nuclear weapons went off, say one went off in Miami, one went off in Atlanta, one went off in Charleston, one went off in, I don't know, Raleigh, Durham, one went off in, well, Washington, D.C., Pennsylvania, up at, Pittsburgh up in Pennsylvania. How about Cincinnati takes one? Chicago needs 2. Moving back down the country at St. Louis, Dallas, of course, Kansas City, Denver. How many people could they kill by taking out these cities, major American cities? Every city that has a football team or baseball team or basketball team would be large enough that if they dropped a nuke, they could kill millions of people at a time. And similarly, that country, for doing that, would receive their own gift of nuclear annihilation. At least I would hope that the threat of that would deter someone else. And that really has been the point of nuclear weapons, is not their usage, but rather the deterrence that comes with them. Interesting question, interesting thought, Orlando. What could do it, folks? What could bring the population of the United States down by 2/3? Right? Even though the Deagle number is even more than 2/3, it's more like 3/4. I think the U.S. population, with all of the illegal immigrants, undocumented, that are here, I bet we're closer to 350 million people. Don't worry, folks. I'm not counting people that are dead and are still voting. Wow. Anyways, interesting topic. These predictions of depopulation efforts. It's not that I think that it's really possible without causing such incredible trauma and havoc. But I don't believe, folks, that they have the means to do it and that they're willing to use it. We'll find out. It's a very scary thought. Being prepared offers the only, shall we say, earthly assurance that you'll make it. Right? Your spiritual assurance, That's a personal matter. You can keep that to yourself. And also keep what you actually do have in ways of preparation. Keep that to yourself. Nobody needs to know it. Operational security, but you better be prepared, right? Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Let's do it. Let's move on with more questions. Uman says, quite the dilemma when two protected groups go against each other. Well, we know for a fact that women are a very protected class, and they historically have been protected by men, the white knights that want the affections of women, right? People recognizing that women are physically disadvantaged against assailants, attackers, rapists, so they're protected. And then the world discovered the crimes against women, right? Holding them back from getting more pay, treating them terribly. All these claims that the feminists have made, right? So women, they are given special, shall we say, status. But then we discovered that other groups are more important than women, right? Other groups became certain minority groups. And then it became, well, the gays. And then the wars in the Middle East. Now we have to protect the Muslims. And then the gays strike back with even more craziness. We're not just gay, but we're trans gay, and we're this gay, and we're that gay. Yeah, it's kind of like a battle of stupid. Why should any group get preferential treatment over another? In fact, I thought the Constitution strictly prohibits such an exercise by the government and recognizing either through benefit or the labeling of crimes as a hate crime and making it worse because one group is protected. Why does any group get more protection than another or any more consideration? So now we have different groups who all are vying for the most protected status. We even have people who are in this country illegally, who are not Americans, who don't even speak the language, much less understand the law and our culture. And they claim they're a protected group for being here illegally and that they need to be housed and fed and pampered and now educated as well. That's right. They need to be trained. It's the incredible. It's beyond dilemma, man. It's pretty crazy, pretty wild stuff. But the story I know Uman is referring to is pink shorts versus sharp knife. Place your bets. Who's going to win that argument? You never take pink shorts to a knife fight. You never take a knife to a gunfight. You never turn a fruitcake loose against a soldier or a Marine, because it's not going to end well for the fruitcake. You don't taunt people whose culture you don't understand, because you don't understand their culture and how serious they are about it. And I also should say, you don't allow another culture into your country if its tenets, its belief systems, its dogmas and rituals are anti-American, that don't understand America, won't understand America, will not allow America. In fact, all they do is radicalize themselves and promise more violence. It's quite incredible. Intelligence. How intelligent are these people? Not very. Scientific study. The more violent someone is, typically the less intelligent they are. Look into it. And then look around the world and say, who are the most violent? Who are the most unintelligent? Can I make the connection? Can I figure it out? The religion of peace, always striking back, winning friends and influencing people. Good God. All right. Who do we have next? What do we have? Who do we want to talk to? Who's out there? And it's BOXO77 checking in. He says, I'm at work, just wanted to say hi, and I've missed you all. Been busy doing the stuff and things. That's a good one, Bioxo. It's great hearing from you, man. Great hearing from you. Well, I want to talk about, I'll do a question for Bioxo. Southern Illinois University Does that sound like a college that you want to attend? Does that sound like Princeton or Harvard or Rutgers or UCLA or Stanford? Does that sound like? No, it's Southern Illinois University. They're now in trouble for silencing conservative speech. Everything is going to come back full swing, folks. Get ready for it. And when the pendulum is flying our way, be sure to jump on it and send it as far, far to the side of freedom, intelligence, and American virtue as you can. Now, they're going to call all of that radical right. But they have engaged in the destruction of the First Amendment. They've put forth the idea that there's limits to the First Amendment. They've actually suggested canceling the First Amendment, destroying the First Amendment. The government has enlisted the help of social media, schools, courtrooms, and even some laws to silence free speech. They've completely ignored our history, our culture, our tradition. They've completely ignored the laws and the discussions about the laws, namely the Federalist Papers. They completely ignored the damage that was done historically and has been cataloged and documented in the Declaration of Independence. The right to speak and say what you want. So I'm glad Southern Illinois University has to pay a fine for silencing people that they don't agree with. And I'm going to ask this question once again. Who the hell is going to college at these places and paying money just to be treated like a fucking socialist tool, right? A socialist shake weight. Unbelievable that anyone would ever want to go to one of these colleges. Right? And I certainly, folks, have tried to attend college and done nothing but get grief for it, because I want to use free speech and talk about what I want to talk about when it comes to things like English or just philosophy, debate courses. It's incredible. Anyways, enough of my shit. What do you want to talk about? Jolene, man, who is up next? Who do we got? We've got H12, Heidi. And she says, what are the odds that guy will be Epsteined as soon as they get him in jail? If we're talking about the 17-year-old Muslim who stabbed Pink Shorts for doing provocatively gay dancing in a nearly nude fashion, I don't think he's going to get Epsteined at all. Because he's 17, he's going to go to a juvenile prison. Because he probably comes from a less intelligent family, he's probably going to go into general population with other thug-like idiots who probably agree with what he did. Will the guards do that? Will the prison guards go after this kid? Well, it is interesting. You know, who's going to stick up for him? The Southern Poverty Law Center, right? SPLC, are they going to protect him because he's Muslim? Or are they going to be mad because he killed a flaming gay guy? How about the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL? Will they stick up for this guy and look out for his rights while he's in prison so that prison guards don't beat the hell out of him or kill him? Now, here's another question. Now that we've seen how violent the trans and gay community really are, I mean, some of them are just flamers who want to dance wearing pink shorts. Others are just violent beyond imagination. Are there gay gangs in jail? And if there are they going to be allowed to attack this guy? I don't know, folks. I don't know. All I know is the world is off its fucking rocker. I'm going to give you an example. Joe Biggs, folks, decorated military veteran. Joe Biggs. He's also a January 6th prisoner. Did you know that he faces 20 years in prison for walking inside the U.S. Capitol, a place where elected officials, their staff, and the public walk every day of the year? Every day. And they're taking his honorable military service record. How can they? I want to know how the hell they can take his military service honors. Who is this court to take what he did in the military away from him and strip him of that? Well, I got to say this, folks. Anything the government can give, the government can take. The government giveth, the government taketh away. I need you and everyone to understand that honor, self-respect are gifts that we give ourselves. And if you accept a gift from someone else, they can the next day trash you, take it back, speak about you in a negative fashion. So they show you this great honor and then they slap you down, whether it's the next day or the next year or a decade later. Look at how Joe Biggs is being treated. I really hope that he has given himself the gift of honor. That's the gift we give ourselves. We know who we are. And when you give yourself that honor, no one can take it, especially a worthless, lying government. When I read this about Joe Biggs, it pissed me off. I may not agree with him 100% of the time, but very few people do I agree with 100% of the time. But he was trying to make a difference, and he's been arrested and now faces 20 years in prison for walking inside the U.S. Capitol. I will never, ever, ever set foot in that piece of shit city, that shithole of a dungeon inside the D.C. perimeter. There's no fucking way I would go there ever. Why? It is not holy ground, folks. It is ground zero for scum. But we have people that are willing to do that as elected officials. And I say this, support them because they're there. They are there and they need to be supported. Congressmen, senators, write, text, call, email, blast them every day and give them some ammunition to fight with. Don't go there as a protester because you'll end up like Joe Biggs and many others. We got congressmen and they've been sent there and they have special privilege to enter the Capitol building without being arrested for it. It's unbelievable, folks, the punishment that is happening for people exercising rights, for people practicing intelligence. For example, this, folks, right? A professor at a college was fired because he was teaching actual science, factual science. Now, science holds, it's determined, it's concluded, it's conclusively concluded that being male or female is embedded in the DNA at that level in every cell. And chemical and surgical mutilations of the body don't change one's gender. It may change their appearance, but it doesn't change what they are. Now, Dr. Varkey, Professor Varkey, has his attorney, Ms. Russell, and she said no college professor should be fired for teaching factual concepts that a handful of students don't want to hear. Dr. Varkey received exemplary performance reviews for nearly 2 decades, teaching fact-based, widely accepted science. But now that cultural elites are at odds with these ideas, the school no longer supports professors who teach them. It is a blatant violation of state and federal civil rights laws to discriminate against someone based on their belief systems. Folks, whether you're in politics, in education, in the military now, look at all the trans crap in the military. This is Washington, D.C. This is the education system. At every level, destroying everything. Are you prepared Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Are you prepared for what they're doing? Because they're going to keep doing it. There is no stopping them. Whew, I tell you. All right, Mr. Uman, Jolene, who's up next? Who wants to step into the arena with an idea, concept, or thought? And it is Heidi again, who says, is there any possibility that Congress will think to pass a bill limiting frivolous lawsuits against an opponent? Well, here's the problem with that. How do you define a frivolous lawsuit when courts are politicized? How do you define a frivolous lawsuit? A frivolous lawsuit when attorneys and lawyer firms are weaponized with cash. That is to say, if you've got a law firm that you spend an awful lot of money with, they can craft a civil complaint, a frivolous lawsuit, to sound very, very legitimate. See, once again, the more difficult they make the legal system to understand and have access to, because gaining admission into the civil law system, the civil courts, takes a shit pile of money. A shit pile of money. And if you don't have the money, you ain't getting a lawsuit. So you see that money is the weapon here. Money is the ammunition. Lawyers are the weapons that fire it. And I would love to see Congress do something that helps America. But I don't think frivolous lawsuits is going to be it. Now, what we have against President Trump is not a frivolous lawsuit, but it is you could say, an abomination of justice, because they're using the criminal law system, not the civil law. And also, folks, Trump is continually being sued civilly, but it is the criminal law, the power of the state, that has been turned against Trump. And there ought to be a remedy for the weaponization of the legal system by his political opponents. There ought to be a law to stop it, to recognize it. There ought to be a yardstick against which a prosecution, a frivolous prosecution, can be measured. Right? I would almost think that a committee could decide that. Right? What is happening to Trump right now is a travesty of justice. It is obscene in what it is they're doing. Yet it's going to continue. It's not going to stop. They're going to make it worse. They will push their fight. The left wing will push their fight until they either win, and they win everything, or they break the system. Let us continue. More. Jolene, who is up next? We've got Mikey G. He says, with the military coup in Nigeria, will it spread? Domino theory? Thoughts? Yes, it can. But will it? We can't say, Mikey. Military coup, the takeover of governments, doesn't happen, in my opinion, my understanding, it doesn't happen organically very often or successfully. Typically, it takes a lot of money, support, and weapons. Now, America, we have weapons. Other countries don't have the weapons we have. So for an armed insurrection, a coup d'etat to take place, it takes a lot of funding, which takes training. In America, we train ourselves to fight. In other countries, they don't know jack shit about guns. They don't have the trained military out here in the civilian population the way we do. Consequently, a military coup in these countries is much more difficult than imagined. It takes millions of dollars. It takes the CIA or other groups training locals to become insurgents, guerrilla fighters. But it can spread. If they successfully take one country, then they can successfully take the next, if they are pushing that. If regime change is something that the people want, even though they don't realize that what they're going to get from the CIA isn't quite what they had in mind. Exchanging one form of despotism for another is not a success nor a victory, in my opinion. But we're going to find out. Keep an eye out, Mikey G. And let's close out with this last question comment coming from Charles Gentry, who says, Bill Gates wants population reduction so there will be fewer people to bully him. Bill Gates has been a nerd his entire life. He's been a very successful, unscrupulous insider POS, in my opinion, and the opinion of many people that don't like Bill Gates, because he has demonstrated himself to be a giant asshole who also is responsible for the death, disfigurement, sterilization of many, many people who his folks international, shall we say, Jim Jones Juice program has hurt. Not a lot of love there, but that's what he wants. That's what he stated. And he comes from a family of eugenicists and population reduction proponents. Dangerous people when they have that kind of money. And Bill Gates comes from money and has created even more of it for himself through lucrative business and government contracts, buying his Microsoft operating system. Doesn't matter, does it? Whether it's Apple or Windows, Microsoft. These left-wing people are rich as fuck, and they don't love you. They have no love for you. Even if you're a Democrat, they have no love for you. In fact, I find it ironic that the most productive people, the most hardworking people who are willing to do the jobs, the work it takes to get done, are the exact opposite of these Democrats. It's also illustrative, folks, to see that they benefit so much from our hard work, yet they support our death. Chance favors the prepared mind is yours. Godspeed, Semper Fi. I'll see you tomorrow, 0 Dark 30.